What's up, beautiful people? It's Sindafam. Welcome to the channel. Today we'll have the officer Tatum on why black men choose white women over black women. Awesome. I'm excited to check this one out, as this is an old video of the officer Tatum, but all the same, I would really love to check this one out. Let's check it out.
What's going on, y'all? I thought I'd make a video. I was thinking about this this morning when I woke up. I mean, I think about this all the time, but I was thinking about it heavily this morning because a lot of people have initiated discussions with me about this. Obviously, I have my own personal thoughts and experiences with this certain subject, but it came up and it keeps coming up time and time again about why do black men date white women. Now, I'm gonna tell you what, over time I've noticed that it is it's something that's trending more than it used to, 20 years ago or whatever, from my perspective, from my opinion and what I've seen personally. And what I like to say about it is that it has more to do with culture than it does race.
Wow, culture.
Okay, and I can say some of these things because I have personal firsthand experience. And I'll start with just a little background about me. I grew up in Fort Worth, Texas, predominantly all African-American community for most of my life. In the African-American communities, there are certain things that you do and you do not do.
Yeah.
For lack of a better terms, certain things you do, you lose your race card. You lose your black card. And I hate to say it, but it's reality. We got to be transparent and honest. It's reality. So growing up, my sense of reality and relationships was based on what I saw predominantly, what I saw in my own personal life as far as my parental relationships and different things like that. So I could say this, and I'm not saying this is static and this is consistent with every single African-American person on planet Earth. It's not. I'm not saying that. Just my own personal experiences with what I saw. Every black woman, and growing up from the age, from when I was born to, from when I started dating to when I turned like 22, I had never dated a woman who wasn't African American. Never dated outside my race. And a lot of it was because that's a lot of what I was exposed to in our black community. And also it was stigmatized. You date anything outside of black, you will sell out.
Yeah.
So on and so forth. So anyway, but I have to say every single African-American female that I dated either didn't know their dad or didn't have a good relationship with their dad. Was in a single parent home or
parents are not together.
Was in a remarried situation where either dad didn't know dad or dad wasn't involved, or he was, like a secondary parent. And with that comes issues, insecurities, and other things like that. Hands down, no matter what race you're involved in, those circumstances and situations are counterproductive to a healthy, conducive life in its totality. Not saying that you can't be healthy with those circumstances. It's just better if you have a streamlined representation of the way the family structure should be.
Yes.
So I have to say, but that was normal to me. My parents aren't together. Although my dad has been in my life the whole time, both my parents are very active, but they weren't together. So
you see,
growing up, that's what I thought was normal. Fast forward that to when I went to college. Now, going to college opened my eyes to a lot of things because, to be quite honest, when you look at the demographic of most major universities, you're going to see that there is a overwhelming number of white people in comparison to where I grew up at, where you never saw white people unless they were a teacher at your school or they the police. And going to college is a huge culture shock because you are now the minority. Now, everything in life is not Afrocentric. It's not from an African American perspective, and you have to now figure out how that applies to your life. So, long story short, I got to college, and a lot of myths start being unveiled because growing up, you don't date white women. you bring a white woman home, or you date a white woman, and I'm not saying this is my parents. This is society. This is peers.
I mean,
you date a white woman, you'll sell out. You get clowned. They talk bad about you. Every name in the book. You want to be white, whatever the case may be. So, and that white women didn't have good bodies. They didn't have no rhythm, and you can't bring them home. That was that was stigmatized in a lot of young black men growing up. It was stigmatized in me growing up. Got to college, found out that those things were in large part a myth. But the biggest thing and the most crucial point that I'm trying to make here is that when I got to college, I started seeing things that I never thought of before. My understanding of the world started changing. It sounds funny because I never heard of sushi before I went to college. I didn't know what sushi was. Somebody mentioned it to me. I'm like, what's sushi? I never heard of that. I never knew anybody that went on a hike before. Never heard of hiking as much. It wasn't something that black people never did. From my perspective, there's a lot of other things I just never thought of before. Organic food. Never heard of organic food growing up. Nobody ever ate organic food. I remember going to the grocery store, and the rare times I saw organic food, I thought something was wrong with it. I thought it was the abnormal food. I thought the normal food was the stuff that don't have the labels on it, and then the stuff that said organic was some kind of weird food, some kind of stuff that got hormones in it or something crazy. That's why they charge more for it. That's what life was like for me. That's what reality was. And I got to college, and I started being introduced to these different aspects of life, different avenues of life that I didn't know about. And so, therefore, my mindset towards dating and women started changing. Because now I realize, I really like sushi. I think hiking is a great idea. I love hiking. I love exercise. Organic food, obviously, is better for you. I really want to eat organic. So then the funny thing is that now when your dating pool starts to be evaluated, now white women become more of the prototype for what I wanted. And I'm not saying it's every white woman is like that, every black woman is not like that. What I'm saying is that that's kind of happens to you when you go to college based on a demographic and or experiencing and exposure to different realities. So with that being said, that's what I started seeing. And I started realizing that single parent homes weren't normal.
Yes.
I started realizing that not knowing your dad ain't normal. And I start seeing situations and cultural situations where I was exposed to women who knew how to treat a man because mom and dad was married her whole life. And she knew how to be ladylike, how to be compassionate, how to be loving, and different things that I think that some cultural dynamics hinder people from being exposed to and experiencing. And so that became attractive. That became a necessity. I wanted to start over. I wanted to have a life that I didn't have. I wanted to be exposed to things that I didn't have. I wanted to be exposed to the family dinners that I didn't have. And the grandma and grandpa been together, mom and daddy been together, everybody in the same family, everybody got the same kids. It becomes appealing to young African-American men who come into college and be exposed to a life that they could not have previously and that they were not exposed to. So now, and again, I want to preface that it's more about culture and less about race.
Race, yes.
And so you get indulged in this culture and you realize that this culture is something that you think is better for you.
Yes.
It's more conducive to your success and your happiness. And then you never go back. You never go back, and that is now the standard. And it typically ends up being more white women. Now, for me, obviously, and most black people I know, that race don't mean anything, but that cultural dynamic does. And what happens is there's a certain group of people primarily fall in that cultural dynamic. And then there's a certain group of people that fall in the previous cultural dynamic. And that stimulates the dating pool and certain young men who decide to date outside of their race. So hopefully I said that. That's a lot. That's a mouthful. So hopefully I was able to articulate it in its totality to get the clear understanding. But that's why I think young black men that people see from the outside end up dating white women more often than we've seen in the past. And you see it more often in young men going off to college at these major universities. Because I can say right now, a lot of my friends that I knew when we were younger would never date outside our race. A lot of my friends are now engaged to and are married to women outside of the race, primarily white women. So not to try to make this a racial thing, but I just wanted to kind of open up some people's understanding to the dynamic and give a perspective from my perspective. So and if you fast forward and you catching at the end, pretty much the bottom line is what I'm saying is that a lot of black men date white women because of cultural dynamics. A lot of it has to do with the structure, the family structure, and other opportunities and exposures that young men begin to see at a later age once they get exposed through college or other professional experiences. So thank you guys for watching this video. I know it's long, but I had a lot to talk about. Hopefully you watch the whole thing. If not, skip through it. You'll catch some bits and pieces. Appreciate y'all watching. Again, this is Brandon Tatum, and I'll see y'all next time.
Wow. Exactly what it said. Is not just it happens to people, it happens to everyone. I feel like environmental factors plays a lot, especially with grooming children, or when people grooming people. Yeah. So I've actually seen a lot of people, like, sometimes depending on where you grow up from and the kind of lifestyle you're exposed to, you get attracted to those things. But when you get exposed to other things, or to people who are not from your environment, or not from the kind of environment you grew up with, you begin to see that some things you were told while growing up, or some things that are the norms in your environment, or in the environment you grew up from, are not normal. You begin to change and resonate according to that perspective, or according to that environment, or your new environment, and adjust to fit in to that world, because you're beginning to see things that are normal, and deviate from the things that are not normal. It happens everywhere, because people change and people evolve. That's one thing to point out there. I've actually seen a lot of people and seen a lot of people ask a lot of questions. Why do black men marry white women, and why do white men marry black women? That's the case. The case and question that keeps getting asked, and I'm glad that someone pointed this out, that is more about culture and family structure as opposed to race, because some people, they always assume the latter. But I really enjoyed this, and I really learned a lot from this, because lots of people who are from broken homes, or who are not used to having both parents in the same home, when they grew up and they start dating, in their dating life, they see things like that as normal. And when they get exposed to having beautiful family structure, and seeing people who have both parents present in their lives and all, they be like, it becomes weird and new to them. But the minute they start engaging in talks and everything, they start realizing that not having both parents in your life is not normal, or not having a beautiful family structure is not normal. But I love what I just learned here. And I mean, sometimes we all know these things, but all the same, Brandon Tatum, thank you for sharing your perspective. This was really insightful and really knowledgeable. I'm glad that I learned this one, and I checked this one because it was really insightful, and pointing it out again, is more about culture, family structure, and not about race. I love that perspective. I love it. So yeah, I would love to hear from you. What are your thoughts about it? What contribution you have regarding this? You can also share your story, and you can also share what your thoughts are regarding interracial marriage and all, and the reason why people intermarry, and the reason why interracial marriage is now common. What are your perspective about it? What are your thoughts about it? What are the norms that you grew up with that you thought were normal, and later found out that those things were not normal? I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear your perspective in the comment down below. And until next time, see you in the next video.